No one really warns you about what life feels like after 80. People talk about health. They talk about staying active. They talk about medications, appointments, and numbers on charts. But very few talk about the quieter changes, the ones that don't show up in medical reports and don't announce themselves all at once. After 80, life doesn't arrive with a single turning point. It shifts in small, almost invisible ways. One day, you notice the house feels quieter than it used to. Another day, you realize time feels different. Less rushed, but also less predictable. You begin to sense that the world around you hasn't stopped, but it no longer moves at the same rhythm you do. And that realization can catch even the strongest, most independent people off guard. Not because something is wrong, but because no one prepared you for how subtle this stage of life would feel. There's no dramatic collapse, no clear dividing line, just a gradual understanding that what once felt automatic now asks for attention, and what once felt certain now asks for flexibility. Many people sense these changes, but never name them. They carry them quietly. They adjust without explanation. But there's something grounding about putting words to what you're living through, about realizing these experiences aren't personal failures or signs of decline, but shared realities that come with time and perspective. Today isn't about fear, loss, or what aging takes away. It's about what aging reveals. 5 quiet realities that often appear after 80, not loudly, not all at once, but steadily enough to shape how life is experienced. And while some of these truths may feel uncomfortable at first, understanding them can bring something unexpected: steadiness, even peace. Because when you recognize what's happening, you stop questioning yourself. You stop wondering why things feel different. You realize you're not alone in this season, and that awareness in itself is a kind of strength. Reality 1. Life becomes quieter, and that quiet changes you. One of the first changes many people notice after 80 isn't dramatic. It's the quiet. The phone rings less often. Conversations happen less frequently. Days stretch out with fewer interruptions. At first, the quiet can feel peaceful, even welcome, but over time, it may begin to feel heavier than expected. Not because you suddenly need constant company, but because silence has a way of amplifying memory. Old conversations replay. Familiar laughter returns in fragments. Moments you once moved past without noticing now linger longer than they used to. This isn't loneliness in the way people often describe it. It's a quieter form of adjustment. When the noise of the world fades, you're left more often with yourself, with your thoughts, your history, your reflections. And that can be both comforting and unsettling. But there's another truth here. In the quiet, you begin to see more clearly what mattered. Who mattered? Which connections carried weight, and which were simply noise? When the world speaks less often, you start hearing yourself more clearly. And that kind of clarity, while unfamiliar, holds its own quiet strength. Reality 2. Your body stops recovering quietly. Another shift that often surprises people after 80 isn't sudden weakness. It's visibility. Your body no longer recovers in the background. A small strain asks for rest. A missed meal lingers longer than it used to. A busy day requires more time to recover from. You may still feel capable. In many ways you are, but your body now asks to be noticed. This can be frustrating, especially for those who spent a lifetime pushing through discomfort without a second thought. What once felt automatic now requires intention, planning, and patience. The emotional challenge here isn't the slowing down itself. It's the expectation that things should still work the way they always did. After 80, strength begins to look different. It's no longer about endurance. It's about maintenance. Caring for your body becomes a daily partnership rather than a background process. And that awareness, while sometimes inconvenient, is also protective. This stage of life isn't asking you to prove how strong you still are. It's asking you to protect what strength remains by listening instead of pushing. Reality 3. You begin to notice when the world doesn't slow down for you. One of the quieter emotional shifts after 80 isn't being ignored, it's being out of pace. The world moves faster than it used to. Conversations jump ahead. Spaces assume speed. Decisions happen quickly, sometimes without pause. You may notice people finishing your sentences, talking over you without meaning to, rushing ahead while you're still gathering your thoughts. It's not cruelty, it's momentum. But it can still feel unsettling, like the rhythm you move at no longer matches the rhythm around you. This isn't about losing relevance. It's about living at a pace that values depth over speed. After 80, you've lived enough life to know that quick answers are rarely the wisest ones. Your slowness carries perspective. Your pauses carry meaning. You don't need to move faster to matter. You don't need to compete with urgency. There is quiet authority in moving honestly, even when the world rushes past. Reality 4. Your world becomes smaller, but more defined. Another reality that arrives gradually after 80 is refinement. Your world doesn't collapse. It narrows. You go fewer places, keep fewer commitments, spend more time in familiar spaces. At first, this narrowing can feel like loss. There's grief in watching certain routines fade. Familiar faces move away. Places you once visited regularly slowly slip out of reach. But over time, something else begins to happen. What remains becomes clearer. The unnecessary falls away. The meaningful stays. A smaller world can feel more manageable, more intentional, even more honest. You begin to see that life doesn't need to be wide to be rich. It needs to be real. Meaning doesn't come from how much you do anymore. It comes from how present you are in what remains. Life after 80 asks for fewer distractions and deeper attention. And for many, that shift brings a quiet sense of relief alongside the grief. Reality 5. Certainty gives way to adaptability. Perhaps the most challenging adjustment after 80 is letting go of certainty. Some days feel steady and clear. Others feel slower, foggier, less predictable. Plans become flexible rather than fixed. Confidence becomes situational rather than constant. And that uncertainty can quietly chip away at trust. In your body, your energy, even your judgment. The hardest part isn't physical limitation. It's the hesitation that creeps in. You pause before committing. You think twice before heading out. You wonder how the day will unfold. But here's the deeper truth. When certainty fades, adaptability becomes wisdom. You learn to adjust instead of resist, to respond instead of force, to move with the day rather than against it. Flexibility becomes a form of control, not over outcomes, but over how you meet them. And that awareness gives something back: presence. These 5 realities don't mean life is shrinking away. They mean life is asking to be lived differently, with more attention, more patience, and more respect for what remains. Aging after 80 isn't about losing worth. It's about gaining clarity, about understanding what matters enough to keep and what no longer needs your energy. If any of these realities felt familiar, you're not alone. Many people experience them quietly, without words. Naming them doesn't make them heavier, it makes them steadier. Which of these changes have you noticed in your own life, or in someone close to you? Because when these experiences are shared, they stop feeling isolating, and when we face them together, they become not burdens, but wisdom. Thank you for spending this time with us. Your presence here matters more than you know.